Delta from Waijo Anime Games. This is going to be Bakura's deck profile, and now hopefully you saw our Bakura versus Yugi duel. If not, make sure you check that out. Pretty exciting. So this wave has been a lot of the smaller characters like Bakura, Rex, Weevil that we saw our protagonists play against. And Bakura's deck was definitely a challenge to make, but it was a really cool deck. That Shadow game against Yugi, where Yugi's friends, Joey and Tristan and Teo, were summoned in the actual cards, was definitely cool. So really happy we were able to create Bakura's deck, create something that feels authentic to Bakura. And without further ado, first up is 3 Lady of Faith, which is actually Bakura's only normal monster. He actually had a deck full of effect monsters, powerful stuff like Man-Eater Bug, Morphing Jar, White Magical Hat. Definitely a cool card. And not much more to say about that. Electric Lizard. So this is kind of like a little bit of a stun. The monster that attacks if it's not a zombie can't attack the turn after. Also, this is pretty weak, but you get to stop a monster. And this is definitely a kind of more evil looking creature. Not as serene as Lady of Faith. Then we have Electric Snake. So this was not a card Bakura played. But obviously with a lot of these decks, we don't have full 40 card decks to make for the characters just based off of what we saw them play in the anime. So you have to include a lot of other cards on our own. We have to include other cards that make the decks feel authentic, cards we think could make sense for them playing. Electric Lizard and Electric Snake seem like, cards that could go hand in hand. This doesn't have a kind of stun type effect like Electric Lizard. In fact, it doesn't have an effect that's likely to see much play. But it's a monster that came out very early, like of course other monsters, and we felt it made sense. We thought it was something that we could see him playing. 3 Man-Eater Bug. So what a card, am I right? I mean, in Duelist Kingdom format, having monster removal is pretty big. I remember this was something that Yugi had to be terrified of, because if Yugi's friends like Joey and Flame Swordsman was destroyed, that soul would be lost forever. Bakura's deck had things like White Magical Hat and Man-Eater Bug. It was, taking out the opponent's cards, destroying the opponent's cards. That's what it was all about. It was really about hurting the opponent, just desserts, punish Yugi for putting his monsters on the field. So it was what you could describe as an attrition deck. And it had a kind of effects that, mess with the opponent, mess with their monsters. And Man-Eater Bug definitely does that. Having monster removal in Duelist Kingdom, like I said, can really be good. You can really get some big threats off the field. Then we have 3 Morphing Jar, which is a good example. You rip cards from your opponent's hand. 3 Morphing Jar can be kind of crazy if you resolve them all in a game. But sometimes, he'll be stuck discarding Morphing Jars or other Morphing Jars. Like you'll see in a lot of the deck files, we include 3 of a lot of the cards that were played by the characters. We just don't have that many to include, so we have to really maximize on the cards that were used by the character in order to, make it feel like the character's deck and make it feel authentic. So as powerful as Morphing Jar is, we did include 3, and it's just, it's always powerful to just dish hands and get a new one. Each player gets 5 new cards. It can really ramp up the game state. Then we have 3 Masked Sorcerer. So again, this wasn't used by Bakura, but similar to like White Magical Hat, it got an effect when it inflicted damage. This isn't necessarily the best card for Bakura deck. No, we're definitely not going to say that. But again, we tried to find cards that we felt the character could play, cards that made sense. It's a card that came out early on, came out with Bakura's other cards. It's got weaker stats. It really felt like something that he would have. It was an effect monster. He had a bunch of those as a spellcaster, Lady of Faith. So we try to look at a lot of different things, and it's always just about looking at a card, thinking of as many things as we can, advantages, disadvantages, and telling ourselves, does he feel like he would play this? Do we think this makes sense? And if we do, we'll, include it, and we try not to include cards that don't make sense. But being able to draw is pretty useful, even if it's not the easiest to inflict battle damage with Masked Sorcerer, just like it's not the easiest to inflict battle damage with White Magical Hat. Then you have 2 Needleworm. Again, not a card he played, but like I said, it really fits the theme. And this and Morphing Jar can be pretty dangerous, so this is a very lethal combo. But this is the whole take cards from your opponent, discard their hand, take cards away from them. It really just fits that theme that Bakura had. It fits the flip effect theme, which we see him having Man-Eater Bug, Morphing Jar, powerful effect monsters, powerful flip effects. That was all here, so we really tried to pick cards that fit into that theme, A Needleworm, only a 2 of. Then we have the last monsters, 3 White Magical Hat. So not much to really say here. I've been talking about it, discard a card from your opponent's hand. Bakura a lot of these small monsters with pretty good effects at actually saying Duelist Kingdom. They're pretty good. I'm going to take this opportunity to say if you haven't checked out our Facebook already, definitely like us on Facebook. We post some cool stuff there. It is really worth it. Then moving on to the spells, we have 2 Chain Energy. So this is a card that we actually saw, not used in the duel, but we saw Bakura use it against Pegasus's guards. It has an effect that fits for his deck. It inflicts effect damage just like Just Desserts did. It restricts the opponent, it harms them in some way. It's a very powerful card. We only want to include it too. It does, kind of change the gameplay when it's dropped. You have to play around it. It changes the way both players are going to have to play. So we only included 2. And it is very powerful for Just Desserts. But obviously, when we're playing against Bakura's deck, we know to take that into account. We're not going to just summon 4 monsters right away if the opponent has a couple face downs, like that might be Just Desserts. Then 2 Change of Heart. So this is actually a really cool card. This is what Bakura said was his favorite card. Taking control of monsters is pretty powerful, However, it's not as strong in Duelist Kingdom as other formats. For example, in regular format, if you're playing Battle State decks, you can brain control something, Change of Heart something, attack directly with it, then tribute it. That's, pretty massive. There's no tributes in Duelist Kingdom, so you don't get to take your opponent's monster away like that. However, taking something off the field can still have its uses. And yeah, it's just a really cool card to see. We have 2 Monster Reborn. So a card we saw tons of characters play. It showed up everywhere in Duelist Kingdom. They called it Reborn the Monster, which is kind of funny. So 2 definitely get the inclusion in Bakura's deck. 1 Pot of Greed. This is not a card we saw necessarily as much early on. However, it does make sense. It's a card we saw characters play a lot. It just lets us fill out the deck. We try to make sure we include cards that would be in the character's deck that feel realistic to them. Then we have 3 Yami and 2 Terraforming. So if you've seen our other Duelist Kingdom deck profiles, you're getting familiar with this. Field spells were so huge in Duelist Kingdom with the field spell bonus. We saw a lot of these characters take advantage of that. Weevil lured Yugi specifically to a location, knowing he could make the best use of its field spell bonus for his insects. With how prevalent that was in Duelist Kingdom, we want to build these decks taking that into account, right? Because it may not be cards necessarily played, but it makes the gameplay and it makes the actual duels we do with the decks feel more authentic. We get to recreate something from the anime that was a critical component of the duels, and that produces a level of authenticity and a level of accuracy to the anime that we definitely wanted. So they seem like very, very good cards to include, for that reason. If we have to fill out characters' decks because we don't have 40, we can always include more traps, which you didn't see in Duelist Kingdom that much. We can always include more of whatever other monsters. But if we can include cards that make the gameplay feel authentic by recreating a huge component of Duelist Kingdom, then we will do that. And then the 3 of the field spell and 2 Terraforming, does get the job done. The Terraforming just makes sure that you do actually see the field spell, that it does get to come into play. And while Bakura didn't have a field spell bonus, unlike a character like Weevil, who we clearly saw make use of the field spell bonus, we still felt it was a very good idea for filling out the deck. We could include a whole bunch of other cards, try to fill out the deck up to 40 cards with some other stuff. But considering so many of these characters were making use of the field spell effect already, we thought it would make sense for Bakura too. So the 2 Terraforming and the 3 Yami are there for that reason. And I'm sure if you've seen all of our Duelist Kingdom deck profiles from this wave, you're getting pretty tired of the explanation, but we're going to say it in each deck profile, that way everybody's just made aware. Moving on to the traps, which Bakura actually plays, we have 3 Just Desserts. Yeah, really powerful. I mean, one of these on 4 monsters is a game in Duelist Kingdom. Some decks do ways of boosting their life points. But if you open up with 2 of these, and your opponent even puts 2 monsters down, whoo, really, really strong. So that's a huge threat in Bakura's deck. But he played it, so we included it. And then we have double Robbin Goblin. So again, this is not a card Bakura played, but in looking to expand upon his theme and looking to build a deck that felt accurate to what he did, taking cards out of the hand like with White Magical Hat, we felt it was appropriate. This seems to work pretty well, and it's only a 2 of inclusion. We'll usually include like a lot of 3-ofs of cards the character actually played, and sometimes only 2-ofs or even one of for the cards that we included ourselves. So that is it for Bakura's deck. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I tried to explain, as we do with every deck profile, what we decided to do, why we chose to do what we did, how we felt this deck was accurate to the characters in the anime, and all those kind of decisions that we made. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you're not subscribed to us already, make sure you subscribe. Check out the rest of the awesome content from the Wave. Check out all our other content. Comment on the video, any questions you have, comments, whatever. Like the video, and thank you guys very much. YGO Anime Games out.